At the bank, the clerk hesitated, whispering, "Your daughter-in-law tried to close your account." My pulse steadied instead of racing. I'd been waiting for this storm. I signed the paper she thought would ruin me and ended her future instead. But that was just the beginning. The air inside Lone River Federal Bank felt heavy, thick with that Louisiana humidity that never really stayed outside. I pushed through the glass doors, my purse tucked under my arm, and my checkbook balanced in my hand like an old friend. Every Friday, I went through my statements. Old school baby, I'd tell folks. But today wasn't any ordinary Friday. The lobby hummed with that cold fluorescent buzz, 2 bright lights bouncing off sterile glass, and those tall counters that made short women like me feel small on purpose. "Morning, sugar." I greeted the young receptionist, my voice soft but steady. She smiled without meaning it. That's how the world treats older folks, polite enough to stay legal, cold enough to remind you of the distance. When she said there'd been a security update on my profile, I tucked that phrase into my mental drawer. I was sent to Riley Janvier, thin, nervous, honest eyes. She looked like she wanted to help but wasn't sure she was allowed. As she pulled up my file, her shoulders lifted slightly, that half-second pause that tells you something's wrong. "Can I see your ID again, ma'am?" she asked. Her tone carried a tremor wrapped in professionalism. I handed it over, calm, measured. I'd been in rooms with bigger egos and smaller ethics than this. Then she said it. "Ms. Qualls, did you or anyone you authorized recently request to close your primary account?" I blinked. "No, honey, that's my engine, not my spare tire." Her fingers froze above the keyboard. She said she needed to get her supervisor. I smiled politely. Inside, my pulse ticked like an old clock. When she returned, she mentioned a form, an authorization packet, scanned the week before. Someone had claimed I was incapacitated. I leaned forward, my voice even. "Let me see the sentence where I apparently lost my mind." Riley hesitated, then printed it out. My name was signed in that familiar cursive, except the M in Marjorie was wrong. I always loop mine twice. This one sagged like a limp handshake. There was also a biometric confirmation. Riley whispered that sometimes scammers used fingerprints lifted from personal items. My stomach tightened. I remembered Malis at Declan's kitchen last Sunday, wiping my coffee mug to help with cleanup. That same mug, blue ceramic with a chip near the rim, now felt like a trap I hadn't seen. Riley asked softly, "Who is Malis Drayton to you?" "My daughter-in-law," I said. "By law, not by conscience." I requested every document, timestamps, clerk IDs, scanned authorizations. Riley complied, printing fast, her hands trembling. "This kind of thing happens," she said quietly. "People assume age means consent." I smiled. "Age means memory. Darling, we just know more stories than we tell." I took my copies, my proof, my composure. I told Riley to record my statement. Customer disputes incapacity claim. Customer lucid and alert. She typed it word for word, walking out. I caught my reflection in the glass door. Still me, still sharp. Baton Rouge heat pressed on my skin, but I wasn't sweating. My silence was working, tightening like a drawstring bag. I sat in my car, engine off, pen poised, wrote one note, coffee cup, Sunday, thought Malis's smile. Then I whispered to myself, if my name can be forged, then my silence will be sharper than ink. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock above the stove. I sat at my kitchen table, The same one where I used to grade papers years ago and dialed the nightline for Lone River Federal Bank. The agent's voice came through calm but detached, asking for my full name, date of birth, and the last 4 digits of my account. I answered, clear and steady, the way you do when you've spent decades talking to bureaucrats who think slow speech means slow mind. Please document a dispute of capacity, I said. Flag all third-party attempts and require in-person ID only. There was a pause. Then, do you consent to a full account freeze? Yes, I replied. Record. Customer lucid and initiating. When the call ended, I wrote the case number in my notebook and underlined it twice. Paper trail beats gossip. The clock read 9:18 p.m. I stared at my phone for a long minute before calling Declan. He picked up on the 4th ring. Hey, Mom, he said, half listening, the sound of the TV in the background. Son, I began. Did you authorize anyone to access my account? Silence stretched between us. Then he said, too quickly, Melis was just trying to help. Mom, banks can be complicated for you now. I let out a quiet breath. Sweetheart, I taught auditors to reconcile blind accounts. Complication isn't the problem. Character is. He sighed. Let's talk Sunday, okay? I'm in the middle of something. In the background, I heard Melis whisper, Tell her we're busy. My hand trembled only slightly as I said, You don't have to protect me, Declan. But you do have to tell the truth. His final words came soft and heavy. Mom, you're tired. Let us handle it. I ended the call before he could hang up. Afterward, I logged into my computer. 3 fraud alerts, 1 for each credit bureau. I made sure no new accounts could open without my presence. I shut down online transfers, changed passwords, added a spoken passphrase, blue ceramic cup. Only I would remember the chip near the rim. I printed every confirmation and slipped them into a folder labeled FRD, March 2024. My hand moved like muscle memory, neat, deliberate. I brewed tea but didn't drink it. Some rituals are for grounding, not comfort. Sleep wouldn't come easily, so I tested myself. My old school's address, the principal's number, the hymn I used to hum when nerves got the best of me. You don't owe theater to be believed, I murmured, signing the page for my records. When I finally turned off the lamp, I didn't feel scared, just aware. By morning, I was back at the bank. Riley met me at the desk, eyes alert but respectful. Morning, Ms. Qualls. Morning, baby. Let's make this official. We moved through the checklist, ID, case number, freeze confirmation. I asked for the intake photo of the woman who dropped off the capacity letter. The manager hesitated until I slid Arthur Gellerman's card across the desk. That shifted the air fast. In the parking lot, I called Declan again. The account is frozen, I said. Any questions? He exhaled sharply. Why would you do that to us? Melis is just keeping things organized. She organized me right out of my own life. I replied. That's not help. He tried the guilt. You're making me choose. No, I said softly. I'm making me safe. That night, I wrote one more line in my notebook. If they write me out, I'll write them down. Then I picked up my phone and booked a table for 3, Sunday, 7 p.m. I arrived 10 minutes early, because time is a language of control. The Magnolia table was half full, families with laughter too loud, silverware clinking like tiny alarms. I asked the hostess for a booth near others, not a corner. I wanted witnesses, not privacy. Separate checks, please, I said before sitting. The hostess blinked, then nodded. I laid my napkin flat and my phone face down. Recording. Tea. Unsweetened. 2 slow sips steadied my pulse. My tote sat open beside me with the ledger tucked just inside. A printed freeze confirmation rested in a plain envelope. The rule was simple. Tonight, I'd stay factual, not emotional. Declan arrived first, shoulders tight. "Hey, Mom." His tone carried the apology he didn't plan to say. Melis swept in late, perfume announcing her before her words did. "Traffic was awful," she sang, sliding beside him instead of across. "Alignment, physical and moral. We've been streamlining things," she began, opening her purse like a presentation. "It's easier if everything's joint." I smiled thinly. "Easier for who?" She tilted her head, pity rehearsed. "Banks just need clarity as you simplify." I asked the server for extra water. Silence is sometimes sharper than speech. She produced a glossy folder, tabs neatly labeled Budget, Allocations, Emergency Access. "We've named it the Joint Quals Household," she said. "Clean, unified." "Unified how?" I asked. "Who holds authorization?" "We both do, functionally," she answered. "Function and law aren't twins." I said softly, "Hand me the page." Her smile faltered. She closed the folder. "Let's not get into the weeds." "Wow, weeds are where snakes live," I replied. I drew my envelope from the tote. Riley's printouts, audit trail, transfers. A line glared from the paper, $48,000 sent to Joint Quals Household Houston. "That's a down payment," I said evenly, "or a year's care for someone who actually raised you." Declan's eyes dropped. "We were just front-loading bills. You said you didn't want hassle." I breathed in. "I didn't vote to be erased. Declan, that's not the same thing." The server approached. I asked for to-go boxes. That pause was power. "A joint account that starts with my money and your address isn't family," I said. "It's theft with a nickname." Melis clutched her pearls of virtue. "That's hurtful. We're protecting you." "Protection asks," I countered. "It doesn't presume." Declan rubbed his forehead. "Why make this adversarial?" "Because you made it administrative," I said. I leaned forward. "From now on, email only. Copy the bank liaison." Their silence was a confession. I stood, smooth and sure. "The account's frozen. I filed an incident report, documentation, not accusation. If I'm wrong, we'll all sleep fine." I placed the timestamp before Declan. "And Melis," I said, "don't sign my name again." The bill came. I tipped generously. Kindness to workers is the only inheritance worth sharing. At home, I spread the papers across the table. The ledger caught the lamplight like armor. I wrote down everything, times, words, faces. "No more household," I whispered. "Only Marjorie." The freeze confirmation went on the fridge with a magnet shaped like Louisiana. Tomorrow, I'd call Arthur. Tonight, I let the quiet remind me. Some wars are won with receipts. Arthur's voice came through before the second ring. "Marjorie, I've reviewed the lobby still shot. The face is clear, timestamp solid. We can subpoena the raw file." His tone was brisk, not pitying, and that alone loosened something in my chest. I gave him what I had: case number, freeze timestamp, liaison card, restaurant receipt, spoken like roll call. "You've done half my job already," he said. "Paper beats performance." He asked for a clean chronology, so I told him: the brunch mug, the bank visit, the dinner, the freeze. No tremor, no tangent. "We'll begin with preservation letters, then move to civil recovery. Criminals optional," he added. "Good," I said. "No circus, just law." His office smelled like paper and peppermints. He worked old school, legal pads, Fountain pen, a neat desk without ego. I sat straight, ledger across my knees. He dictated the letters. I signed each one with my blue ink pen, calm and clear. Narrow power of counsel, I said, expires in 30 days. Arthur nodded. You know your boundaries better than most. We listed exhibits: audit trail, freeze form, police number, restaurant receipt, phone log. I added witnesses: Riley from the bank, the hostess, and the branch manager whose initials still sat on that printout. You're not a victim in this, Arthur said. You're the owner of a file? That line steadied me like gospel. Then came the buzz of my phone. Declan's text: Mom, you mixed up dates. Let us handle things. Seconds later. Malis, you got confused at dinner. Let's reset before things get messy. I turned the screen toward Arthur. He scanned it and said, Classic capacity erosion. Save them as Exhibit G. I printed both messages and stapled them to my timeline. They've been doing this for months, I murmured. Little cuts. You forgot your keys. You look tired. Gaslighting, Arthur said simply. We answer with timestamps, not tears. I called my doctor's office next, requesting a cognitive status note from my last visit. Oriented, no impairment, the nurse confirmed, faxed to Arthur before lunch. I wrote a small affidavit listing my addresses, medications, and memory of past events. I don't audition for sanity, I told him. He smiled. You'd make a fine attorney. Teacher habits, I replied. Grade, date, proof. By afternoon, our strategy took shape. Civil first, Arthur said. We demand return of the $48,000. They respond in writing, or dig deeper. We drafted the email together. Neutral tone, numbered points, 5 days to reply. I added one line. Until resolved, no one speaks as Marjorie qualls. Arthur leaned back. Let them pull the rope. And I'll decide when it burns. I finished. That evening, I sent the letter, CCing Arthur and myself, printed, filed, sealed. The phone rang just after sunset. Declan. Mom, he said softly. Malis thinks you're not yourself lately. Emails are the only thing keeping you from proving her right, I said. He hesitated. You used to trust me. I still do, I answered. When you put it in writing. I hung up, wrote a single sentence in my ledger. They need me to be confused. I need me to be exact. Thunder rolled outside, slow and certain. Inside, my paper armor grew thicker. Then my inbox pinged. 7:14 p.m. subject line. Capacity letter. Revised. It was signed with my name. Malis's text came just before lunch. Let's have dinner tonight. Clear the air. No lawyers, just family. The phrase, no lawyers, was the tell. I replied with a polite, sure, see you at 7, then copied Arthur privately, asking him to stay near his phone. I chose a gray suit jacket instead of the soft cardigan she always mocked. Armor disguised as neutrality. Maison du Sud gleamed with chandeliers and mirrors that turned every table into a stage. Malis greeted me with a hug that felt like theater. So glad you came, she said, voice sweet enough to stick to glass. Declan pulled out my chair, gentle, careful, practiced. A folder already waited beside her wine. My name was printed on the cover in bold. She began softly, as if reading from a script. Mom, this clarifies the bank thing. We drafted it together for you to sign. Inside, I saw it, a form titled Capacity Verification. Client, Marjorie Qualls. The signature curled like mine, but too smooth, too young. Authorizes secondary management by Malis Drayton. It read. I looked up. Declan, did you see this? His pause told me everything. I set my glasses on the table, drew my notebook from my purse, and compared the loops of the ME. Mine leaned left. This one floated right. If you're going to forge a teacher's handwriting, I said quietly, at least study her strokes. The silence that followed was velvet stretched too thin. I placed my phone face down beside the bread plate. It had been recording since the first hello. Let's read this together for clarity, I suggested. Her smile cracked. You're misunderstanding. This is just efficiency. Efficient for who? I asked. The server arrived with water. Witnesses have perfect timing. I clicked my pen once. The sound echoed like punctuation. I stood. Excuse me a moment, I said, walking to the corner booth. I dialed Arthur on speaker. Arthur, confirm the document you received this morning. Was there a capacity letter revised? His voice carried steady across the restaurant. Yes, and the signature doesn't match your exemplar. It's forgery. Marjorie. Melis's face drained of color. Declan whispered, Turn that off? I didn't. I returned to the table and set the phone between the plates. Arthur, you're on speaker. His tone sharpened. This meeting is now documented. Any further use of that letter is evidence tampering. Melis slammed her napkin down. You're humiliating us. No, I said softly. You wrote your own humiliation. Declan rose halfway. Please, Mom, don't make a scene. I met his eyes. You made the scene when you erased my name. The server froze, unsure whether to flee or fetch dessert. I handed him a 20. Please call the manager. I'd like a witness. Melis cracked first. The bank didn't respect me. I had to take control. Arthur's voice came steady from the phone. That's an admission, Ms. Drayton. Stop speaking. The manager arrived, listening to fragments. Forged signature. Lawyer. Bank freeze. I handed him the folder. Hold this for law enforcement if needed. Then I paid for all 3 dinners. Courtesy, I said, from the account still bearing my name. Outside, night air washed the perfume and heat from my skin. Some meals end hunger, others end pretending. At home. I uploaded the audio file, labeled and time-stamped. I printed a header. Dinner recording. May 12th. I sent Arthur a message. Prepare subpoena for tomorrow. My ledger, once thin, now had a heartbeat. They thought silence meant surrender. I whispered. The kettle began to whistle, soft and sure, as I watched the porch lights flicker on at dawn. A sheriff's cruiser slowed in front of my driveway and didn't keep going. The first knock wasn't loud, it was steady, deliberate. Dawn had barely colored the curtains when I saw the sheriff's cruiser idling by the curb, headlights fading with the sunrise. I tightened my robe, straightened my spine, and opened the door. The deputy tipped his hat. Mrs. Qualls, I've got 2 documents here, one from your attorney, one from opposing counsel. He handed me a sealed manila envelope, clipboard extended. I signed, noting the time in my ledger, 6:22. Ma'am, he added gently, you look like someone who already knows what's inside. I smiled. Knowing and accepting are cousins. Officer. I only invite one of them in. Arthur's letter came first. His handwriting was neat, confident. Inside, a copy of his subpoena request for the bank's video files and the restaurant recording from 2 nights ago. Do not engage with her attorney. He'd written, let the evidence speak. A printed still from the lobby footage fell out. Melis, standing with a clipboard marked capacity form, time-stamped to the minute I'd been at brunch. Her expression was smug, familiar, the look of someone sure the world was already hers. You practice that smile, I whispered. I slipped the image into my FRD folder under evidence, verified chain, and clicked the latch closed. The second envelope carried the scent of expensive perfume and arrogance. Formal concern regarding competency. It read, signed Malus Drayton Qualls. The words blurred before I steadied myself. She'd written that I was confused, forgetful, and hostile at family gatherings. It was a request for conservatorship, temporary and of course, until I was safe. I read every line twice, then circled each lie in red ink. She forgot one thing, I murmured. Lies need witnesses who remember differently. I texted Arthur, received the letter. Filing under fiction. By mid-morning, I was at the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. The building smelled of paper and old coffee. I handed both letters and my running timeline to the clerk. In case this escalates, I said. He nodded. Better early than sorry. I asked for a time-stamped intake slip. As the printer hummed, he glanced up. You're one of the smart ones. I smiled. Old teachers grade themselves by the paper trail. When I stepped outside, the sun hit the cruiser's chrome mirror, bright as an exclamation point. Lunch found me across from Riley at a cafe that served biscuits and confidentiality. He slid a folded sheet under his napkin. Off the record, he said. The branch manager confirmed someone used your ID copy, scanned from a home fax. I blinked. The same night, she claimed she was printing recipes. Riley nodded. You were right to freeze it all. I stirred my coffee, let the spoon ring against the cup. Experience, I said quietly, is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. By afternoon, Arthur called. I'm filing a counter affidavit, he said. Elder exploitation prevention. Her motion will collapse under her own forgery. I exhaled. Good. Let her think she's winning. He chuckled. You sound like closing arguments already. Maybe I'm practicing, I replied. That evening, the house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the scratch of my pen. I opened my ledger to a clean page. Names that lied, Declan, silence, Malus, deceit, Riley, truth, Arthur, anchor. I underlined anchor twice. I taped the two letters side by side and drew a straight red line between them. Between accusation and proof, I wrote. Lies preparation. I brewed tea, sipped the bitter edge, and felt strength settle in my bones. They wanted me powerless, I whispered, but I've turned paper into armor. At 9:03, the doorbell rang again, but this time, it wasn't law. It was family. Declan stood on my porch, hands jammed into his pockets like a boy caught lying. Mom, he said, voice shaking. They served Malus this morning. She's furious. She says you blindsided her. I leaned on the doorframe. A blindside is a hit you don't see coming. I told you for weeks. Email only, no forgery. He swallowed. If you'd just talk to us, not us, Declan, say her name, own your choice. His shoulders sagged. Her lawyer says you're trying to ruin us. I steadied my tone. I'm trying to stop you two from ruining me. His eyes fell on my open ledger on the hallway table, papers neatly filed. That's what staying sane looks like when family forgets how, I said. He hesitated, eyes glassy. Are you really going to court? Only if you keep borrowing my name. When he left, I locked the door softly. The click sounded like peace, not punishment. The phone rang an hour later. Pastor Helen, from St. Alexis Luke's. Marjorie, she said gently, I've heard the talk. I'd like your version before the hallway writes it for you. I told her everything, the forged letter, the sheriff's visit, the recording at dinner. She didn't interrupt once. Would you be comfortable if I note to the church elders that you're lucid and organized? Yes, I breathed. Use those exact words. She laughed softly. If anyone asks, I'll tell them you balance your own books better than most deacons." After we hung up, I wrote in my ledger, "God works in footnotes and phone calls. Thursday morning." I brought a box of notebooks to the church fellowship hall. 2 women paused as I passed, whispering, "Poor thing, memory slipping." I smiled, set the box down, and asked Pastor Helen for 2 minutes. In front of the quilting circle, she nodded toward me. "Marjorie, would you tell them how you locked your account?" I explained calmly. Fraud, freeze, passphrase, timestamps, police record. No drama, just facts. The room fell quiet. One woman said, "I couldn't keep track of all that." I smiled. "You could if someone tried to steal your name." The whispers died. Truth carries better than gossip. At noon, I met the bank's fraud liaison downtown. He reviewed the audit logs, a Houston IP tied to Melissa's email domain. "We'll preserve everything," he said. I signed each page. He added a permanent note to my profile, senior protection flag, verified ID only. "Most people come scared," he said. "You came ready." 30 years teaching 8th graders. I replied, "I know a cheater's handwriting when I see it." He laughed, printing a statement. "Client exhibits full orientation and executive function." I slid it beside Pastor Helen's note. "Church and bank, 2 kinds of faith in writing." That evening, an email blinked from Melissa's lawyer. Proposal to resolve family matter. They wanted the freeze lifted, the forged letter accepted, and household management restored. I forwarded it to Arthur. "I'll pour the tea while you write the thunder." His counter was poetry and law, return the $48,000, issue a written apology, and agree to no contact finance. I added one line. "The word household dies here. Say Marjorie Qualls's accounts." Arthur chuckled. "Teacher's edit. Approved." Later, Declan texted, "Mom, can we fix this without killing my marriage?" I typed back, "You can fix your marriage without using my name as glue." He answered, "I don't know who to be." I replied, "Be the man who tells the truth out loud." At dusk, I walked the block. Sprinklers clicked, someone grilled, a child laughed. "You doing okay, Miss Marjorie?" a neighbor called. "Better than rumors think," I said. My passphrase echoed in my mind. Weathered oak. Oaks don't rush, they endure. That night, I opened my ledger, taped Pastor's note beside the fraud letter, and wrote, "Community plus institution equals shield." Arthur's email came through. "They've asked for 24 hours. I smiled, closed the book, and whispered, "Let them think it's mercy." At 7:02 a.m., a new email subject line glowed, "Accepted," with one condition. The subject line blinked, "Accepted," with one condition. They would return the $48,000 and withdraw the petition if I agreed to a mutual NDA, a polite way to call truth a misunderstanding. I brewed 2 mugs of coffee, one for the woman I used to be, quiet, forgiving, and one for who I am now. I kept the second. I forwarded the email to Arthur with the note, "Silence is how they eat." He called within a minute. "They want your quiet as currency." "Not for sale," I said. "We'll counter at a notary's office with an affidavit attached." His laugh warmed through the line. "Now that's a statement." I opened my ledger and wrote, "They can buy back dollars, not the story." Arthur drafted the affidavit while I watched the cursor blink like a heartbeat. Every line was truth dressed in plain clothes, the forged signature, the sheriff's delivery, the recording at dinner. I told him, "No soft words. Forgery stays forgery." We added 5 exhibits, each a piece of proof. At the end, I insisted on a declaration. "I will not sign any document that implies shared fault." Arthur nodded. "They'll choke on that." "Then they'll choke," I said. We booked the notary for 11:30. I packed my FRD folder like it was scripture. By late morning, the bank's fraud liaison joined us on Zoom, his voice crisp through speakers. The audit trail showed the Houston IP, the login tied to Melis's email. My passphrase, weathered oak, played in the system log. He emailed the certified report. I forwarded it to Arthur. Paper beats performance, I said softly, and closed my laptop. The notary's office smelled of lemon polish and justice. Declan and Melis sat across from me, their lawyer perched between. A cashier's check rested half-hidden under the NDA. I set my affidavit down, thick with stamps and evidence. The notary pressed his seal onto the first page, heavy and permanent. Their lawyer started, "We expected a private resolution." "So did I said evenly, "before the forgery." He slid the NDA toward me. I returned the edited version. "No gag order on truth," I added. Melis snapped, "You're humiliating a—" "No," I said. "You managed that when you forged my name." The notary cleared his throat. "Ready to sign?" "Almost." I placed a small recorder on the table. Pressed play. Melis's voice filled the room. We needed control. Declan's head dropped. Their attorney went pale. Arthur's voice came through speakerphone, steady as scripture. "Upon notarization, the funds will wire within 1 hour, or we forward this to the Attorney General." My phone buzzed. The confirmation pinged. I lifted the screen. Payment received. I signed. Accepted the narrow NDA for numbers only, nothing else. "No one closes my account," I said, standing. "Today, I closed your future." That afternoon, I sat in St. Luke's community room with Pastor Helen. I handed out a short guide, 5 steps to guard your name. The widows nodded. The men scribbled notes. "Write your story like a ledger," I told them. "Make every number a boundary." They thanked me with lemon bars wrapped in wax paper. At dusk, Declan came alone. "The money's back," he said quietly. "She says you ruined her reputation." "I didn't ruin it," I replied. "I revealed math." He asked if we could be okay. "I'll love you as my son," I said, "but I won't hire you as my conscience." He nodded, left with empty hands. That night, I wrote the last line in my FRD, funds restored, boundaries permanent. I brewed tea, drank it hot, and stood at the window. The oaks outside swayed steady, unbroken, weathered oak, indeed. 2 weeks later, a plain envelope arrived, no return address. Inside, a key and a note for the storage unit in Houston. "You'll want your name back from there, too." The tea had long gone cold when I turned the key between my fingers, hearing its faint click like a pulse in the dark. Houston, a storage unit, a name I thought I'd reclaimed. Maybe what they stole wasn't money, but memory. And if my past is in that unit, what did they hide with it?